Buying a dental practice is the biggest decision of your career, and selling that dental practice is the second biggest. I'm thrilled to be here with an expert and sponsor from DDSmatch, sharing an awesome opportunity for dentists to realize their dreams and avoid screams. If you want to learn more about it, please text BUY to 215-543-6454. And if you're looking to sell your practice with success instead of stress, please text SELL to 215-543-6454. So, every returning guest here, would you please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what you do to help dentist dreams come true?
Todd Garfinkel. My wife Sheryl and I are two of the owners of DDSmatch Transitions. We happen to help doctors in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area sell their practices when they're ready to move on to something else. And then we also place associates for doctors.
Yeah, I love it. It's like the giant circle of dentisting life. You know, they should hold up a broken articulator like they do in The Lion King for this, and you pass it to the buyer who's taking over the life's work of the seller. And I think what you do, you really should just take a moment and be proud of yourself for it, because it's not easy, but it's so impactful. And we've been on before talking about best practices, what to avoid. You have one of my favorite tips that I know you'll reiterate here, of how negotiating your insurance fees is, as I call it, a nacho brainer before you sell a practice. When really, actually, Todd, I think it's a nacho brainer at any time to do.
Agreed.
And I love the story of one. Dentists love details, and we have a story of one. We have one practice that we're going to talk about. You're representing this practice. Tell our audience about it.
Oh, I'd love to. I appreciate it, Paul. Thank you. Well, is a pretty fantastic opportunity, really, when it comes down to it. And I know a lot of people hear that when it comes to dental practice listings, but I'll actually outline as to why it is an opportunity, give some tangibility to that. This little gem is located in Fort Washington, Maryland, which, for those who don't know where that's located, is about 5 miles outside of National Harbor. I mapped it this morning, and it was a 20-minute drive to the center of DC, like to the White
Oh,
House and the monuments and the
all
state.
those free museums. I love the free museum
I
stuff.
know that's what I focused in on, right? What else can I tell you? It's a three-operatory practice, but it's got a fourth operatory that's plumbed and ready to go. The equipment that's in the operatories is ADEC 500. For those who don't know, that's the top of the line ADEC chair and delivery unit. Collections 735, 740,000 per year. But I think one of the beautiful pieces of that, Paul, is that the overhead is 52%. And as
Awesome.
you know, because you've done this in the past, when we talk about overhead, we're referring to the expenses that the practice has, right? So we've got the collection side of it, the expenses come out, what's left over goes into the pocket of the owner, right?
And I think that's awesome. I mean, there's so many different ways to be successful as a dental practice owner, small, medium, and large, different sizes. And I think these practices that have substantial collections, not 200,000, 700,000 plus. And then if you just layer in two specialty toppings, extracting teeth, placing implants. One thing I like to educate, Todd, and I'll answer this second. You know, you got this dentist. You can tell us about the seller a little bit, you know, in the general ways. Why are they referring out the specialty work? You know, why don't they just do it themselves? Like, is it the time in their career where they just don't want to do this work? Have they enjoyed just doing restorative work? Just educate our audience about that.
No, you hit the nail on the head, Paul. That it's hasn't been a mainstay of this practice anyways, and often when doctors move further into their career, they start to drop off procedures that cause them stress because
Yeah.
what they're looking for is just an easy path, a day-to-day easy path, and that's where this practice is at. They're referring everything. So endo, ortho, perio, oral surgery, implant placement, all that's going out the door to other specialists.
And I'll share, I found being a dentist, this thing that what patients really love is not leaving your office. Okay. So when we've purchased practices just like this, we don't do all the specialty work, but we do a lot of implants. So when we say to somebody, would you like to stay here for one of these implants? They want to stay there, because one of the things patients really don't enjoy doing is leaving. And I want to be clear, sometimes they have to leave. We don't take out impacted wisdom teeth. Specialists are awesome, but when you can capture some of the productivity that these patients would love to do. Have you seen practices like this go from 750 to $1 million a year without a ton of extra stress from the owner?
Way even more dramatic than that. I've got one quick story, real quick. in Silver Spring, Maryland, right outside of DC. Sold a practice that was having trouble selling, two equipped operatories, but it didn't make sense for the owner to equip the rest of the other three that they had. The new owners came in, and within 8 months, they were doing as much in a month that this other practice was doing in a year.
Wow. That's it. Yeah,
And
it's
that's because they started placing implants, they started doing endo, they expanded to the other operatories, they kind of took hold and pursued the opportunities that the practice offered.
and I think this is just this story here represents everything that's right with dentistry, right? A seller who's enjoyed their career is now taking care of patients in a fundamental way with restorative dentistry, hygiene, I'm sure crowns. And I understand. I'll share my answer of why dentists want to refer out specialty work later in their career because you're just really, really tired of being stressed, complex procedures, stuff that's not predictable. And you're at a time in your life where, I'm just going to assume the dentist has paid off all the debt on this practice, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
you
You're
paid
hitting
off the
it.
debt on the practice
Yeah.
and you're enjoying what you're doing. Well, I appreciate you sharing this with us. People can text Harbor to 215-543-6454, email transitions@dentalnachos.com. We'll get you connected with the awesome Todd and Sheryl. Is there anything else you'd like to share about this opportunity or anything you guys have going on before we wrap up?
I'll focus in on this opportunity. It's they're literally doing zero advertising, and as you mentioned earlier, they've never negotiated their fee schedules. So a new owner could come in here and take a hold of that, and who knows, could raise the fees 8%, 15%. We've seen as much as 25% of the insurance fees negotiated up from when they took over. So there's a lot of opportunity. Last piece, and probably a real important piece, the seller is extremely flexible,
Awesome.
both with the price as well as the terms. So they're willing to help with the financing if it has to be. They're willing to negotiate. Of course, they're not going to give it away, but they're going to be within reason. So they're
Yeah.
really motivated, heavily motivated seller.
I love that. You guys bring so much education and value what you do. People can text by to 215-543-6454 to learn more. My one last thing is help our audience understand this. So when I was a young kid, I was playing Nintendo and my mom would say, I want you to go talk to your grandmother. She's here to visit you. And I said, Mom, I want to keep playing Zelda. And she said, I don't care if you want to keep playing Zelda. I want you to go sit with your grandmother. And she kindly annoyed me, and it developed this amazing relationship between my grandmother and I that actually lasted longer than my mother was alive. And I really appreciate her doing that, right? But I didn't want to. I wanted to keep playing Zelda. Well, these dentists out there, they don't really know when to connect with someone like you for either of these things. And I want you just to talk about the buyer in this moment. When should they be connecting with you and Sheryl? When they want to, they're an associate dentist, they want to be in Maryland, they might want to own a practice. When should they be reaching out so that you know who they are? You can help them with bank financing. Just give them some education on that.
You bet. Thanks, Bob. I would encourage potential buyers, as soon as they have that inkling, even a sliver of idea around potentially buying, give us a call. I mean, we're very advice driven,
Yeah.
so we're happy to get on the phone with buyers, even if they don't have a target in mind, just to talk about the landscape, give them ideas about what's ahead of them, things for them to consider, connect them with advisors like you mentioned, like banks, lawyers, accountants, that sort of thing, just so they start to build a team and build their knowledge base for what they might head towards. And it might help them to understand that decision a little bit better.
And we were making some fun jokes about Hamilton prior to this with my team. You also can just look out for them. You know secrets. You can meet a dentist who's thinking about selling, and you go, "I know this buyer who's over here," and you make this magic happen. But if they don't know you, you can't make that happen. So it's just my encouragement for people to connect with brokers earlier than you think on both sides of it. They're there to help you. These are the biggest decisions of your career, and I'm so proud to have you guys helping us, Todd. Thanks.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to be partnered with you guys.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
All right, take care.